We'll briefly skim through these next two because
They're fairly easy,
most people know these two. We had to add these. Die Hard. First of all, we were just adding it in here. People argue whether it's a Christmas film or not. It's a Christmas film, in my opinion.
It's both. It's both a Christmas film and both not a Christmas film. You can watch it any time of the year, but if you watch it at Christmas, you're a fucking real G.
But I think it's got way more Christmas vibes than some other Christmas films. So
kind of more than Gremlins, really.
Yeah.
Going just by the last example. Obviously, these two are not linked in together. We have another film after this, which is linked in together. But the last one was like creepy little monsters at Christmas. This is like,
Hey, Gremlins. There's a gremlin with a gun. Now we got terrorists with guns, as we said. We'll come back to the terrorist thing, but they're not. Who said they were terrorists? It's Die Hard, robbing a tower, bank, Christmas, action, Christmas vibes. Most people know Die Hard.
I mean, we
Bruce
could just
Willis.
stop there, Joe. Like that was a good summarization of.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
But Die Hard is also a really good Christmas film to watch.
I fucking love it. It's honestly like I think similar to this and the next film. I know them like the back of my hand. Really.
No, the number of times I've seen Die Hard is ridiculous, and it's probably.
I mean, of course, yeah.
There isn't much else to say about it. Most people know it, but it's a glorious action film.
It's intelligent as well, really. It's just, not smart, but it's intelligent because it's like it's thought about things. Like later action films that mirrored this.
Here's the
they
thing,
don't think
though.
about things.
Yeah, a lot of things are based on it as well. Yes.
Yeah, but John McClane like running around barefoot, and then so it's like, okay, shoot the glass, and that's obviously you said that's the funny moment where he says shoots at the glass,
and he's like, why do you not speak in German? It's like
shoot the glass.
Shoot the glass.
It's like, why would he say that in English to his fellow German?
But also, I will say, you say it's very clever, which it is, but Die Hard, I remember watching something about the making of it. They literally wrote it as they were filming it. So they got to like a scene, and they were like, what's he going to do? He's on the roof. What are we going to do about it? And then they're like, I'll have him jump off the roof. They had already filmed the scene before that scene, so they were writing it as they were filming that film, and that's why it is very like.
Dude, that's amazing! I never knew that. Honestly, that makes it much more glorious that this is a film where Brad Pitt. Sorry, not Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt was not in Die Hard. Sorry.
Where'd Brad Pitt come from?
Oh my God, Brad Pitt's out of nowhere. Sorry, Bruce Willis. I don't know why I said Brad Pitt. I think it's because I think Brad Pitt I think Brad Pitt's my favorite actor at the moment. He's just fantastic. Not favorite, but he's like as a general everyman. He's great.
Has he been in a Christmas film though?
I don't know.
But forget about him.
Bruce Willis though. Bruce Willis does not care about his current career, but back then when he did care, like he would like do shit like that, like.
There's.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, I think that what you're saying with it like being written as it goes, that kind of works in its favor, really, if you think about it, because it's like it's a situation where it's like the character's improvising what he's going to have to do. It's like, oh, I guess he has a machine gun now if he's killed that guy. It's like it's so methodical as a film. It's not like a straight sort of through narrative. It's just like this is like him whittling down the enemy. It's almost like it's similar to the structure of like Rambo: First Blood, stuff like that. It's like. But it's in an urban environment in this one building that's been locked down, and that's the thing as well. It's a compact place. It's a compact place, but it's also so open because it's so empty. Because it's Christmas. It's under construction in some areas.
Yeah, but again, it finishes with the Christmassy vibes of everyone getting together at the end, and I don't know why paper's falling from the sky, but it's sort of like. LA snow, I think, is there. You don't get snow in LA, so paper. But
it's very well crafted. It's it's just like it's a perfect time where like action movies were trying to be like unique and not smart but intelligent.
But now they
have
all
a degree of like narrative intelligence.
Yeah, they all just copy Die Hard now.
And they all star The Rock as well.
Yeah.
That's not to say I don't like The Rock.
No.
Cool, but
But
he's in every film now, It's it's like it's like when Samuel L. Jackson was in every film. It's like, at least Samuel Jackson's an actor. He's got like oh god, I might have just started some shit when I said that. I just said that The Rock isn't an actor.
Wow.
My mum's spoken to The Rock apparently on like video chat. We could tell the story another time, but like that's why I'm scared. I'm scared he's going to come through my internet.
Can we get The Rock on the podcast, please?
Dude, Rock, right? I will rescind everything I say if you come on the podcast. I will become your yes man until my wallets are empty, which will happen quickly because I've never had a lot of money.
Anyway, so speaking of, clever, trying to one up the
clever
people
like
that are invading.
Film.
Yeah.
Our next film is Home Alone, which, as Brooklyn Nine-Nine stated, is Die Hard for kids. And this is the one that I chose to put in here. This was my final choice on this one.
It's another classic.
Yeah. So Krampus and Die Hard were ones we sort of added in after the fact, but they were ones that we decided together. But Home Alone was the final of my three choices, my three original choices, which were Night Before Christmas, Gremlins, and Home Alone. Mm-hmm. And the reason why I chose Home Alone is because, similar to Die Hard, it's both of these. In fact, you could even just dispersing some getting rid of the theme of like they're defending against invaders. Both films about that. Like they're both iconic films. They're both films that are iconic. Yeah.
Very quotable, both of them.
Yes,
well.
Yeah. But Die Hard. It's like if you took, not Die Hard, Home Alone. If you took Home Alone, Home Alone. I'm dying.
Pull yourself together.
So if you took Die Hard and you made it like slapstick, that's what you get. That's when you get Home Alone.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of Bruce Willis and John McClane, we have Macaulay Culkin as Kevin McAllister, who gets recasted in the fourth movie, Ruh-roh. But yeah, this was at a time where you had Macaulay Culkin as child actor, similar to Corey Feldman in Gremlins. Like you just have like a really like world class child actor there. And obviously there's bad stuff going on behind the scenes because, it's Hollywood, but I've always liked Macaulay Culkin. I think even when I was a kid, I just thought like he's a kid that has charisma on screen. Like he's even if his performance isn't the best, it's like this kid like has heart to him, even if he's being like a jerk.
Yeah, he does a good job in this film, and he's like the playful but mischievous little boy who's
and he still has a heart of gold because he does like he does like nice things. Like in the second one, that's especially sort of scene where he like donates to charity and stuff.
Again, I haven't seen any of the sequels, but I have seen the original.
The second one's fantastic. The other ones are not really worthy at all, but the second one's just as good as the first movie. I spoke to my dad recently about that, and he was like, "Yeah, I think the second one's just as good as the first one." But yeah, it's the elements at work here. It's mostly a comedy film as per usual. There are some scary elements if you're a really young kid. This is the thing. I think Home Alone, more so than any other film we have on here, maybe Grinch, because Grinch isn't really scary. It's more just sort of goofy. I think Home Alone, more than any other film we have on this list, is a film that you could watch as a very young kid. I did. I watched Home Alone when I was maybe like 9 or 10, like to begin with, and it was great because if you're actually the age of the kid in this, then the moments that scare the kid are moments that scare you, like the scary film that he puts on, that where a guy gets killed and stuff like that. It's like it's sort of acknowledging that, and then you have like even moments with the burglars that are quite sort of scary, like even just for the burglar's sake, like the spider on Marv's face, God. Marv's foot going into the nail. Like Marv is probably the one who has the most scary stuff happening to him.
Well, some of it's not scary. Some of it's just extreme torture, actually.
Well, that's what I guess what I meant is that like I'm scared by spiders. I think you are
spiders, as well. Yes, but the nail
is like that's
and everything
more
else
of a phobia,
that happens.
Really. Yeah, the nail's more of a phobia thing. It's like that would feel horrible, and I can feel it a little bit.
I think everyone feels that way.
Yeah,
but some of the torture that those guys take is extreme.
Yeah, and as you pointed out in one of our preambles. I think a lot of it was
Well, they were actually the two guys were actually obviously they didn't go through all the extreme stuff, but yeah, Joe Pesci and
the other one,
yeah, I can't remember. I do know their names, but it's been a while. But yeah, both of them were throwing themselves around. Obviously, they're falling through snow downstairs and stuff. They don't. Not all of it's them. Obviously, they get doubles and they sort of hide it. Obviously, but they were throwing themselves around and like hitting walls and stuff. And like they went through some torture making this film, and not quite as much as is shown in the film. But
so I found the other guy's name, by the way, is Daniel Stern.
Yeah, Daniel Stern. But yeah, they do a good job of the being villains, both of them. But
also, this film, I just briefly like googling it, just for some details, some juicy details. It came out in 1990 on the 7th of December, so it came out on Dunkers Day. This is coincidence. Dunkers Day, which is an in-joke for our friends, so we're not going to explain that here.
I didn't realise Dunkers Day was on in December, actually. But...
Yeah, no, it was 7th of December. But in fact, literally, it's the exact day. So that's we need to tell our buddies about that because that is insane. That I just found that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Home Alone, John Hughes movie, directed by Mr. John Hughes, who did films like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, The Breakfast Club. I think then there's the Home Alone, and Home Alone 2. I can't really think if there's anything else famous that he's done. There's probably something that I've missed because I'm not too familiar with John Hughes at this time. Like, I think besides that, we've pretty much, the most of the film we've basically covered, and there's not really much to talk about.
Again, no, a lot of people.
Really solid
again,
film.
It's another memorable film that comes up. There's another film on the list that references the film, and Home Alone is referenced a lot in other films because it's it's a classic film.
Oh, are you fucking linking in? It's referenced in another film. I know what you're linking that in with, aren't you?
I am I'm just saying, no, but in general, Home Alone is a very quotable and referenced.
Yeah, it is
piece of culture.
Sorry, I just remembered where that was from, but yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's as you say, it's very reference heavy. It's very quotable. Even just like if you like take away those attributes of like as a positive attribute of what you're trying to find in the film. It's well shot. I love the bit where Harry and Marv are in the car and Harry's like he's memorized the timers of when the lights come on, and like he's like pointing to them, and then we see them all. I love that scene so much because it's like, I mean, it's just the way it's shot, and also just because of the whimsical nature of these characters being like it's like they're in heaven, you know. I mean, that's the whole point of their heist is that Joe Pesci goes around looking like a policeman, even though he's got like gold dentures, which is fantastic. Yeah, the little ding is great.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of good stuff, and even there's some serious stuff in there. There's the whole bit between the Kevin and the snow shovel guy, who they have like a meaningful moment, and between the family as well, and it's the whole everyone.
He's just like a nice guy, yeah. The snow shovel guy, who obviously to begin with is like he's again like it's like when you're that age because of the way it's the music, the editing, the
intimidating stranger.
The story being told by Buzz, it's like you sort of believe it to begin with as a kid. Because again, kids are stupid and gullible, but also like because the film's being, it's delivering what it needs to deliver in a very efficient and intelligent manner. That's not to say that it's smart, but it's intelligent. There's enough there's like we picked this apart like a little bit earlier. It's like not earlier today, but like in one of our earlier discussions, I said that like at one point he calls the police like after they are like nearly upstairs in the house, and I just thought, why didn't you do that to begin with? You could still have all the traps and that, but call them like when they get there. I suppose maybe he wants to trap them in there or like torture. It's just I don't know. It's something you could pick apart, but there's also, I could see somebody making an excuse for it as well. But yeah, I mean. Home Alone is a very, very, as well, it's got a lot of good comedy in it for a kid. I don't think as an adult it's just rewatchable for the comedy. I mean, I guess it's similar. I think some of the things that Kevin says as a character are similar to, like, what Borat would say. And that might sound weird to begin with, but, like...
No, I kind of get that.
Buzz, your girlfriend. woof. And I just thought of Borat going, whoa, whoa, you are. I'm like imagining now Borat in Home Alone, and that's just making my day.
Make an edit of it.
the Skyrim one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then at least, but the Home Alone, it finishes with that lovely little Christmassy sort of family reunites, and it's the whole idea of everyone, spending Christmas together, which, in these times,
there's a lot
not as easy as it used to be, but...
Yeah, it's weird, man. It's like it's like it's like watching a video from like 1950 or something now. It's like, I mean, it's insane.
But yeah,
it's all about a sort of, I guess at the end, as you say, it ends on like a tone of sort of like Christmas sort of togetherness and and love and stuff like that. And speaking of love,
that's a good one.
Actually.
Well, Love Actually is a film.
Yeah.
I brought it up because I was trying to think of good Christmas films, and I'm not. To be fair, I'm not that into Christmas films. Sometimes there's a lot that some of them are a bit too just sort of kid friendly, I guess. But I like Christmas.
Yeah, it's as well. It doesn't help that it's saturated a lot.
Yeah, one that I thought I actually did enjoy that film when I watched it. Love Actually. It's an interesting one, and I'm very curious to see your opinion on it because I know you've watched it recently.
Yeah,
and you hadn't
I watched
seen
it last night. Yeah, I have never seen it. We've not spoken about it before the podcast. Unlike other ones we've either seen together, or we've spoken about. This is one that I have not spoken to you about yet.
It's got a lot of famous people in it, and a lot of different characters going on in it. But it is it's very much it's another film that gets everyone together. It's love, Christmas, But I'm curious to see your opinion on it.
Okay, well, yeah, I was curious what I was going to think about this too going in, because I knew next to nothing about it besides that Rowan Atkinson was in it at one point.
Mm-hmm.
And his appearance is very comical. But
yes.
I'm going to be honest with you. To begin with, I fucking hated this movie.
No, it's understandable.
No, I need. This is I need to quantify this, right? At the beginning of the movie, I hated this movie. That's what I meant by to begin with.
Right.
As it went along, I started to fucking love this movie. Not I guess not love, but it was charming enough in some areas. But like to begin with, I thought that the beginning bit in the Heathrow Airport, at that point I'm like, what are you going for here? And then later on, it makes it at the end, it's clear why they did that. But there's that. There's also just the Bill Nighy sort of like, is it Bill Nighy who's doing he's doing the narration, right?
I can't remember who does the narration, but Bill Nighy is the
either him or Hugh
music
Grant,
guy.
and it's more likely it's going to be him because he's the catalyst for like everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's like a washed up rock star, and that scene where he's recording his new song, I'm gonna be honest, like the only thing that got a laugh out of me in that scene was his fat manager doing like the hand signals and that at one point, like sort of like, yeah, you're doing great.
See,
it's like Bill Nighy. I think that first line I just didn't. Well, he's like bugger shit fuck. It's like it just didn't make me laugh.
I don't know. Because I watched it so long ago as well the first time, and it just the Bill Nighy bit does stick with me as like this fun. It's not like. It's not the high point of the film, but it is something that still I really just like that idea for some reason of this rock, washed up rock star thing.
Oh, as a character concept is fine. For me, what didn't work was just that it just didn't make me laugh was the issue. Not throughout the film, but to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Just that initial scene, I just didn't buy into it. And then in the next scene, I can't remember what it was the scene after that. It's I'm trying to think. Which character do we then see after that? Is it the wedding after that or something?
Maybe. Again, the order gets a bit muddled because there's a lot going on in this film, to be honest. That's the one thing.
Dude, it's like Infinity War. Like, we're seeing... honestly, it's legitimately, it's similar. Like, it's... Because there's so many characters involved, and it's more like a series of tableaus that sort of kind of link into each other, but don't.
Yeah.
I think that the highlight performances of the movie are Bill Nighy as the washed-up rock star, but more so, I think Hugh Grant as the Prime Minister.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he's
Hugh
fantastic.
Grant does a good job.
Liam Neeson's great.
Liam Neeson and his son are very good in this.
I don't think that his son is fantastic, but
as a kid, it's very
as a kid actor,
young
yeah,
actor.
like,
so
yeah, and I've seen him in other things. Like he's been good.
But no, it's the acting between them that's good. It's like aren't you?
Yeah, they got good on-screen chemistry, but I mean everyone's good in it. It's like I don't think there's any bad people. Like, people. No,
but there are certain storylines that I agree with. Some aren't as good as others, and certain characters are less.
The Andrew Lincoln storyline is very. I want to get into it, but we can't really get into too many of the stories because it's such a long film, really, and there's so much going on. But basically, it's just about a bunch of people falling in love. Hell, 2 extras for like a porno set fall in love at one point. Martin Freeman and like some extra lady, like they fall in love.
No, I love how casual they start. They're just having a conversation while filming.
Honestly, that's like the funniest. I think that's one of the funniest scenes in the film where they're like. Hi, Susan, or whatever your name is. It's like, oh, could you get your breasts out? We just need to light the shot properly. She's like, oh, yeah, sure. And it's like, okay, so whatever his name is, I will just call him Martin. Martin, could you just cup her breasts? He's like, oh, yeah, sure. As long as it's okay with her, yeah. So, and it's like this comical moment. And it's like, Martin, could you now massage her breasts? And he's like, right? Okay, yeah, that's fine. Yeah. So they start pretending to like bone, and then he's like groping her tits, and they're talking about the traffic getting into London and stuff like that. It's hilarious. There's a lot of there's a lot of bits in there. It's just like some of it falls flat for me. Some of it's just like but some of it gets a really big laugh out of me.
No, it's a big mix.
When Hugh Grant dances around the 10 Downing Street, that just killed me. Because Hugh Grant as well. I think Hugh Grant makes the film, really, as one of the actors in it. Because, like, I think Hugh Grant is impossible to dislike, I think. He's just got such a charming nature to him. And I think what we've learned from Love Actually is that if you do a posh accent, and you sound a bit more sultry and a bit more reserved, right? You just sound a bit more sexy, don't you? Yeah, Bill Nighy's voice sounds amazing. It's like you just do that, and you just sound like a million times more sexy. But yeah, how about you go through what stories do you not necessarily like from it, or do like, and I'll go through mine.
Yeah, I mean every storyline has its ups and downs, but yeah, there's one. I was going to mention one interesting thing about the fact that a lot of these storylines are quite positive for the most part. But there's a couple that there's a mixed bag, as I said, because there's like Alan Rickman plays a character in this. There's so many famous people in it.
Yes.
With Emma Thompson, I believe, is the wife.
She is his wife.
But obviously there's the whole like he's having like a little affair thing, and the divorce comes up, and so like certain storylines end not so good, and certain storylines, there's it's love everywhere, but in different ways for different characters, and it's just interesting that they do play all sorts of different scenarios in there. But then there are some really weird ones, like that one guy who just goes to America and gets girls and comes back with them, and it's
I wanted to talk about him because that was very I like that. I think was really funny.
Yeah,
it's a subversion of what we thought was going to happen. But at the same time, it's weird that it's in the film.
It just doesn't quite fit, but it's
what?
funny.
I feel like it's here's the thing. It takes up so little time with the film. I honestly don't mind.
Yeah.
Like, because again, as I said, like it's just like when he gets to America, until the end of the film, we don't see him again.
Yeah.
For all we know, until the end of the film, like he's been like lured into like an Odyssey-esque pit of like sirens or like mermaids, and he's being devoured, like eaten alive. And in a way, I suppose he is.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it's such a weird thing.
There's some weird ones. There's a lot of obviously there's a lot of love thrust upon characters, and then a lot of sort of. Some people are seeking it out. Some people are losing it. Some people are, love Christmas.
As the lyrics of the song go, it's "Love is all around us." It's like it's like that. By the way, that song is stuck in my bones. Yeah, that's stuck in my head. By the way, since last night, it's like it's such a garbage song, obviously, but it's stuck in my fucking head. But one thing I wanted to talk about is that, like, I think my favorite has to be I don't know. I love the Martin Freeman one,
Yeah,
but I also like the Hugh Grant one. I like that one as well.
That's
I
definitely
like that.
yeah. The Hugh Grant one is definitely one of the main ones.
Yeah.
That's again. It's funny following. You got like random people and then like the Prime Minister in there, and it's like it's
And
funny.
the Prime Minister is Emma Thompson's brother, and they're all linked together.
They are all
in
linked
a way,
in.
yeah.
But,
Like in fact the woman that that Alan Rickman is sleeping with is like best friends with Andrew Lincoln, who is best friends with Keira Knightley's husband, he was I can't remember the actor's name, but he's fantastic. The husband's name. He was in
I can't remember his name either, but yes, he's
I can
very
look it up at some point, but actually yeah. So but I will say this: the reason why I wanted to get into this is because at the Andrew Lincoln part. Okay, so I found like the guy's name. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to pronounce this correctly, but Chiwetel Ejiofor or Ejiofor. He's the guy who's the husband. He was in 12 Years a Slave. He was in Doctor Strange for people who know that a bit more. But the Andrew Lincoln Keira Knightley sort of plot. I gotta be honest, like, I mean, they don't. It's not the worst thing because it's not like after he confesses his love for her that she like leaves her husband for him. That's fine, but it's still a little weird that like he's a stalker essentially. He's a stalker character, and sort of and he's like. It's like a redemption arc almost for him being really creepy.
It's a weird one, but
and he gets a peck on the cheek afterwards. It's like it's like he does have that line which sort of it makes it a little better where he goes like that's enough, like but like that was like okay, you know what, I'm cool with that, but at the same time, all I would say is that it's not that I necessarily think it's a bad thing. I just think that it's very controversial, is all. I think, and I don't know how to feel about it myself because it does come across a little creepy, but in some respects, it also comes across very sentimental. All I know is that if there was a creepy dude, if there was someone who was stalking me, who came to my door and held up signs without speaking, telling me to not call for my husband or like my wife or something. I'd feel a little bit like, weirded out. I'd feel like I need to shut that door.
I mean, she does know him though, so
yeah, I know. But at the same time,
if it was a complete stranger, yes, but
it's still a situation though that like I find to be. I feel like it's very, very uncomfortable.
It's weird because why. Yeah, I don't know why this guy, the character, just leaves it so late to confess his love. It's like, God, how, why even do it at all at this point? If it was, if she wasn't married, it would be such a cute moment, I guess. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it is because it's like, it's a weird scenario, as with a couple of the others, like the whole divorce thing is a weird scenario, but more realistic. Whereas he does come across a bit stalkery at times, especially at the filming and the wedding, where it's like, this is all me. And I'm like, that's a bit too obvious, guy.
Yeah, that was, yeah. But I mean, actually, I wanted to just bring up another one. The Colin Firth romance as well is actually a really good one. I like that one. Although we need to talk to our friend from Portugal, who will only be named if they wish to.
Yeah.
But why the fuck is the entire population of Portugal, which I'm guessing is where they are at the time, why is the entire population of Portugal like helping Colin Firth to find her? And then at the end they're all clapping, and I'm like, what is going on?
I don't know.
If this was England, like in this film, then no one would be doing that.
No, I do think I was going to say it's a bit like we think English people are less kind and friendly, I guess, and like for other countries, people are a bit more community based more than we are.
I felt like it was a bit stereotypical.
It is
in a way,
but
it's like a Monty Python part, like in Life of Brian, when they all start following Brian for literally no reason.
No,
it's like that.
here's the thing: a lot of it is very over the top. Some of it's realistic, some of it's not, and then especially like the whole pantomime bit at the end, where it's like it's very,
well, it's like heightened reality, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's kind of iconic because especially the placard scene has been what the Prime Minister has used that in like promotional stuff or whatever at some point, and the actual Prime Minister, and her Love Actually is quite iconic for a lot of its like scenes and characters and stuff, and the whole dancing down the stairs is always referenced. So
that's I mean, the dancing down the stairs and dancing through the Downing Street, like it felt very, very risky business as well. But anyway, we should move on though, just because we've got a lot to get through now.
Well, we've got Uno Mas.
So this is the one I'm next bringing in. So this was Joe's final sort of suggestion, but when we were organising these, we felt that it would be a bit. Thing is that both Love Actually and Night Before were films suggested by Joe, so they fit thematically, they fit best together. Yeah. So it became that okay, I should introduce like Night Before. I would have probably introduced Krampus or something like that. Had that it's not been the case, but our next film is called The Night Before, not to be confused with The Night Before Christmas.
Just the night before.
Not The Nightmare Before Christmas. It's The Night Before, or the book The Night Before Christmas. Not to be confused with any of those. This is a film starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Anthony Mackie, and Seth Rogen, and this was suggested by Joe.
Well, I'll explain why I suggested it though.
Before I get into my thoughts about it.
Yeah, I know you're not a massive fan of it, but I enjoyed this film. I watched it probably a year ago. I watched it originally, and we both rewatched it together recently.
Similar with Krampus, yeah.
Yeah, but I enjoyed this film when I first watched it because it had a little Christmas vibe to it. It's different to all the other ones on here because it's more. I compared it to, well, it's got Seth Rogen in it, so some people may know somewhat what to expect from it. It's just sort of like a adult humor sort of, but with Christmassy film. Obviously there's like a little bit of sex, drugs sort of thing mixed in here and there.
It's like a boner comedy in a way, but there's a lot of it that's detracted from that, really.
But the reason I liked it is because it was just sort of three guys sort of having some fun on Christmas. The whole film was just having fun Christmas, sort of just trying to, regroup their friendship, whatever. Just have a blast on Christmas. I still found it to be just sort of a fun film to watch around Christmas. But let's hear your opinion on it, shall we, Jack?
Well, it's not the worst thing I've seen in the world.
No.
But it's pretty bad.
Which I'd still disagree with it being bad per se.
I remember we watched this and Krampus like a day apart, and I remember like we watched Krampus first. I remember saying to you after we watched The Night Before that I preferred Krampus. Because Krampus felt like it had like more like original thought and sort of creativity put into it. There was stuff in there that I just thought like had potential to be a greater film. The Night Before does not have the potential to be a greater film than this, besides removing Seth Rogen. Like make it it could be a functional film, like a mediocre, like riding the line film. But for me, it's kind of. I remember when we were talking about this originally, when we were sort of giving like a rating out of 10. I'm not going to do that for all these films, but I think for this one I kind of have to. Like, so out of 10, for me, I got to be honest, it's probably like a 3 or a 4. Now I think about it. I think towards the beginning, just after we saw it, it was more of like a 4 or 5. But I got to be honest, like there are bits of this that made me laugh. And made us both laugh, because we obviously watched this together over watch party. Or, we just, it's Krampus, we just, synchronized when we hit play and all that sort of weird stuff. But I'll say this, it was similar to, I don't know, Krampus was a weird watch between two people. I think that The Night Before. Love Actually is a great watch. But The Night Before, it's definitely improved by watching it with company. But
Yeah.
if I watched that film alone, I'd be having zero fun.
But then I would almost say that with most Christmas films. Maybe
see,
a lot of the ones on this list that we've got, we can watch alone. But
yeah,
a lot of Christmas films, I would say, are designed to be watched as like a group or with family or someone, because that's...
I mean, I can think, considering the fact that basically every single one of these other films on this list you could watch alone and still have a good time. I feel like that's not the case, in my opinion. I wouldn't say that you have that they're mostly. I think your Hallmark ones are designed that way. Like your sort of like your copy and paste sort of Christmas plot movies, with your standard archetypes as like business lady goes home for Christmas, falls in love with small town boy, or businessman, if you're really adventurous, goes home to small town to fall in love with small town lady. It's businessman and businesswoman learns the meaning of Christmas. It's
I'm just saying, I'd rather watch most Christmas films with people. So, obviously,
Well, I think
a lot of them are very watchable on your own.
Obviously,
yeah.
if I was gonna watch these, I don't know, like maybe not Gremlins or Krampus or something, but like I'd gladly watch like all these films like with people, but I'd probably rather watch like some of them alone. Like Grinch, you could watch with other people. Grinch is probably improved maybe a bit more with watching it with other people, but I mean, I could watch Love Actually, I suppose, as well. But I mean, it depends who you're watching it really with. Like, I could see like couples enjoying watching Love Actually.
Yeah.
Home Alone is perfect for watching alone. Die Hard, same. I think Night Before only benefits from watching with people. I think if you watched it alone, it'd be a miserable experience.
Well,
at least in my opinion. I know. Again,
I know.
You feel different to that.
I still give it some higher opinion than that, but yes. I agree with you that The Night Before is much better with people than it is on its own.
I felt like it's different again, like comparing it to Krampus, not because it's the direct comparison. Obviously, we're comparing. But we watched them together.
Here.
Yeah. This is just Love Actually and this one about they're just comedy films set at Christmas.
Yeah, just fun comedy films.
Yeah, fun comedy films. But the Night Before, its beginning for me was probably the most egregious out of all of them. I mean, The Night Before. It's similar to Krampus's beginning, but Krampus's beginning is so good because it's like it's creative. I mean, it doesn't start with that sort of cliche thing. And I guess you could make the argument that like including that cliche to begin with and sort of putting a twist on it kind of, works in the film's favor. I wouldn't say so, but like the cliche of the narration over your intro. The Night Before has a gimmick, but I don't know if I said this while we were watching it. It's a gimmick that wears thin instantly, which is the rhyming narration of these guys is like tradition. The montage, if you had like maybe a few lines and then just a montage, I would have just been like a well done montage. I would have been fine with that. Like add some music to it, like have like each year go by, like like there's much more clever things you could do with that, but it felt very low effort in that regard. There are bits with efforts, but.
The opening was okay, but it did go on a little bit too long. If they'd have made it a bit shorter, it would have been better. The little sequence they had.
We should also point out that the only thing making this film like watchable are performances. I think 3 performances in this film are fun. And for people who haven't seen the film, there's 3 characters, so that must be the 3 main characters' performances. No, 2 of the main characters are fantastic. Well, they're doing a good job. I wouldn't say they're fantastic, but
no, but they're
and then one of your side characters is fantastic. But you have Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Gordon-Levitt. You have Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and you have Anthony Mackie, and their chemistry on screen is fantastic. They're like watertight, and their acting is great. Even their comedy, like Joseph Gordon-Levitt's playing the straight man, relatively speaking, although. The visual of him running out at the beginning in like an elf costume from like his job, I'll admit it's cute and like a little funny. Didn't make me laugh hysterically, I don't think, but it was like that's something that I come to expect in a film like this. Anthony Mackie's stealing the show with the comedy. Like every single one of his jokes lands for me because as well he's just like I think Anthony Mackie is a very underrated actor in to some people. I think he's just fantastic, and especially in comedic situations like. even something as something as minor as "on your left" from Captain America. Like, obviously, it's not his line, but he sells that moment because he's like, "Oh no, don't you dare!" It's like, he's got such good sort of screen charisma.
Yeah. And I think he's also his mum character in this film that he works. They work very well together.
In terms of like a moral core, she's very good at that, and this film's very Odyssey like. It's very much like a journey, even though they're not really going anywhere. It's just sort of around town, and they're running into different kinds of characters. And I say it's very Odyssey because they run into like speed bumps of issues, barriers to their success. But also they also have like a fractured relationship, which is. I mean, it's very formulaic, but and then as well, there's issues in the film in that like they use the humor of like if our main characters do drugs, that's just gonna create humor, whereas like that's not always the case. It depends on how you shoot it and how you portray it, and having Seth Rogen be the butt of all of those jokes and trying to carry them.
No,
Seth Rogen in this film is terrible, by the way.
I agree with this. There's only a couple of bits of Seth Rogen that are funny at all, and then the rest of Seth Rogen is far too much, especially in comparison to the rest of it. Like, it's a funny film. It's a comedic film, is what its intention is. But Seth Rogen. The only funny bit with
Seth Rogen, though, is the dick pic thing.
Yeah.
Where he receives a dick pic and then we hear his inner monologue.
Yeah, no, there's some good bits with Seth Rogen. There's a couple good bits. But Seth Rogen is just he's playing himself, as you said, but that's one point. But he's really some bits he's just too much of just Seth Rogen being Seth Rogen. It's like it's too wacky, too like just
even the joke writing of that though, it's like do you remember when like his like cocaine noseblood falls in Mindy Kaling's drink?
Yeah,
like. And then he just repeats it. He's like, "Oh, my noseblood's in your drink. Oh, I'm so sorry. My noseblood's in your drink. Oh, it's I didn't mean it." He's like, "Your noseblood's in my drink." It's like repeating the joke isn't going to make it funnier. It just make it funny to begin with, and you don't have to repeat the joke. You can do comedy in threes, but like and as well, like the film chooses when and where it wants to be surreal. It's not. Like, that's part of my issue with, like, the best character in the film, which is Mr. Green, who's played by the remarkable Michael Shannon.
Yes.
He is just, like, stealing the show as Mr. Green, the drug dealer. It's very predictable, I will say, what they do with him, where he's like, I've got a party later on, and then they're like, well, actually, we're going to this other party, so I don't think we'll be able to join. It's like, it's his party. It's like, as soon as that was said, I knew it's like, okay, it's going to be Mr. Green's party. And that even though that's formulaic and predictable, I accepted it. It's fine. And because he's a likable character, it's like I don't care too much. Like it's like I remember when he has the spirit journey with Seth Rogen. When he has that spirit journey with Seth Rogen in the car, at the end of it, he's like Seth Rogen's like freaking out. He's like, okay, I'm gonna need you to give me $100 and get the fuck out of my car. And the way he delivers that line is great.
Yeah, no, his performance is funny.
Yeah, but then you have at the end, you have like again them choosing like picking and choosing where they want to be surreal. It's like, oh, now he's got angel wings and he's going to heaven.
Yeah, there's a few bits towards the end that I would rather they'd not done. Where they like the whole bit where Mr. Green is actually an angel and he's like my work kit, he's done. He's provided the party, and he's off. He flies off. It would have been fine if it would have been fine even if you had him as like that extra performance. That extra appearance. I think it would have been fine if he just stayed at at the party and you never saw him again. That was his goodbye. And he did say something like, "Okay, I'm really happy for you, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Now get the fuck out of my party. You're never coming back again. You've caused like way too much trouble." Something like that in a comedic sense. But either that or like. When they do find his car, and like they drive off, like he's like maybe like pissing on the side of the street, and he's like, "Oh, my car!" Perhaps that's like an intent. That's not him being. That's like it's not an intentional sort of moment of him being like benevolent. That's just like, I shouldn't have helped those dudes, or something like that. But yeah, and then there's also the there was a bit that I was prepared for that even I wasn't looking forward to. There's the party itself that they build up to.
It sucks.
It
sucks so much.
Yeah, the party scene is pretty awful. They have Miley Cyrus in there as well, and it's like
Yeah, it's
I
very
just
current
unnecessary. You know, it's like I like Joseph Gordon-Levitt is up singing with Miley Cyrus, and I'm like, I would have preferred it if just Joseph Gordon-Levitt would singing by himself.
Yeah.
You know, rather than
Like even if you want to include Miley Cyrus in the film, like he like accidentally knocks her out or something goofy like that you'd have in a film like this. It's not going to be intelligent. It's not going to be highbrow, but you might get a bit of entertainment out of it, and it's not going to feel like some sort of like sellout thing. It feels like it's sold out when it included her in that. Same with James Franco to a degree, although James Franco is being he's not being like an egotist when he's doing that. He's just like he's being like this quirky little role, which again it kind of works for the film.
Yeah, and again, you can kind of tell that I don't know. James Franco seems like he's having fun with it, and that's what I was going to say. That like at least for the most part, a lot of the characters are just having some fun with it.
Yeah, the actors are having fun. Yeah, and there's good moments. Like there's the moment where they go to that entire bit at Anthony Mackie's mum's house. Is fantastic.
Playing Goldeneye.
Really like it. Even the stuff with Seth Rogen's pretty good. Like that's good. And then like when you bring Seth Rogen over to where James Franco is at the party, James Franco uplifts Seth Rogen's performance because they're naturally charismatic with each other because they're actually friends in real life. And James Franco happens to be good. You know, so that kind of works for a little bit, but then you have like Mindy in the middle sort of being like, a lot of it sort of gets hung up on the issue of like, again, it's got like the Ghostbusters problem of it seems like a lot of it was just improv'd and it didn't work. Like some of it works and some of the jokes land. Like, I know you love the "She Home Alone me" joke.
Well, I didn't love. I laughed at it and you didn't.
Sorry, you liked. Yeah. I mean, I laughed at it to a degree. I laughed at the actual gesture of it.
Yeah.
I didn't laugh at the idea of like, okay, we'll just have Anthony Mackie say in ADR, "Oh, she home aloned me." I know you found that to be.
Well, no, that's the bit that made me laugh. It was. I saw. She makes him trip over with some toys.
Yeah.
And then he says afterwards, "She home aloned me," which is the bit that I found funny, whereas you just found the bit where he tripped over from the thing funny because of the reference. Yeah. I found it funny when they pointed it out because I don't know, it's something about the way they were like it's I don't know.
It felt dumb though, is what I mean. It felt like it was pointing out to the audience.
It wasn't necessary, but that's
the
thing. It did. You say it's you'd prefer it without, but then that was the bit that made me laugh. So clearly it was effective because it was.
Yeah, but I mean, again, that's the subjectivity of humor, though. It's like, I mean, you could make the argument like, oh well, we laugh at some dumb shit when we're with our friends. Like that's not comedy. That's just humor. Like comedy, it can be out of structure, but for the most part, if you're in a comedy film, you need written jokes.
No,
and the joke there was intelligently written. You know, like she just made reference to Home Alone in that exact scene because she's got the sticky bandits thing. It's like we're no longer the wet bandits, we're the sticky bandits, Harry. It's like that's making a clever reference, and for viewers, again, it's like you might say that again, the delivery of that and the detail of it made you laugh, but I think for even I don't know. I think obviously that's a point of contention, and evidently it was in editing because it's an ADR line. It's not something he said. Like,
well, again, I'd have to go back and rewatch it, but
I mean, I rewatched it and saw that it was an ADR line. But again, the humor of it, you might have to rewatch it. But I mean, I rewatched it afterwards just to see, and it did give me a little smirk. But I mean, that's just because Anthony Mackie again is like, he's him and Jordan Joseph Levitt up. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, 500 Days of Summer or whatever his name is, Looper. So Looper and Anthony Mackie, they are holding up the film on their fucking shoulders,
Yeah, no, I agree with this. Seth Rogen was an unnecessary. They should have replaced him with someone else.
They should have had James Franco would have been better in the role, quite honestly. Just from how I mean, maybe not with the charisma of the other guys, but I mean, yeah, they just needed someone else, really. And a lot of it does get hung up on the issues that other sort of comedies have nowadays, where like the Ghostbusters problem, it feels like some bits when they do ad lib, it's just like sometimes it was too much in areas. I feel like George Lucas going, I think I might have gone a bit too far in some areas. It's like that's how I felt about this film. I felt like this is too much excess.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah,
like this isn't Wolf of Wall Street. This isn't like trying to show us about like addiction. This is just like characters are doing drugs, and then the funny happen because they're on drugs, because drugs are funny.
Yeah, but
that's
it's
with Seth Rogen.
Yeah,
mostly.
That's the thing. Yeah. Mostly, Seth Rogen's the one with most of the drugs. The other two have, a little bit of
Anthony
fun.
Mackie's going in search of drugs because his drugs keep getting stolen from him, which is funny because again, like it's a stupid predicament, but like, although again, those scenes aren't as good though because the female actress in him is just like she has a bit of an obnoxious demeanor in her character.
Yeah, I'm not a massive
and you
fan
could say
of
that fits. You could say that fits, but it doesn't. Here's the thing: unlike Seth Rogen, though, that's a side character. And it doesn't like hold the movie down. And again, you might get people who like that character. That's a problem with these films, is that because humor is so subjective, is that people mistakenly think that humor is comedy. Comedy is not subjective. Comedy is like an art form. And when you have, there are, again, similar to film, similar like attributes that you need to hit. Like, good cinematography, good sound design, good writing, good directing, good acting, all that stuff from like film design. You also have for just comedy as an art form. And that's why I think that like a more intelligently written joke, even if you don't get it the first time, it's like that's why there's so many rewatchable things in Hot Fuzz, is because there's little things hidden in there.
Yeah.
There's enough jokes in The Night Before that if you do something like that, where it's like, okay, she just made reference to Home Alone and then threw down some toys. When you first watch the film, you might not see that, but when you go back, you're rewarded for your return, like Edgar Wright does with his films. And I know that I'm not comparing this to an Edgar Wright film is kind of like comparing, like moldy cheese to like some fucking Gucci Gouda. But what I mean by that is that like that's still something you should strive towards. It's like we're probably never going to make a film as good as like Martin Scorsese or something, but we're still going to, you and I, we're still going to try.
We look up to those things.
Yeah, we like, I look up to Tarantino and Edgar Wright and stuff like that. It's like I still aspire to try and not rob them of those standards, but try and fulfill them, even if I don't. It's about, I mean, even with film criticism, it's the attempt to quantify something that's unquantifiable by its nature, but the attempt itself and the best sort of, the most objective you can be on it is a place that you've got to find that middle ground, and that's what we're trying to do here, and that's why when we're talking about The Night Before and that things like that joke, it's just like if just with a little tweak, it may not be as funny on the first watch, but it's more intelligently written because it's not spelling out for the audience. It's like it's not going, oh, by the way, if you didn't notice, that was a Home Alone reference. It's like to me, it's like Seth Rogen paused the film like he's doing an audio commentary track, and he's like, now if you didn't notice there, when we were filming, we did a Home Alone reference, and it's like to me that's how it's portrayed in my brain. I know that for you it's
partially that, but also it's not just. I think I said before, it's not just them referencing it twice, though. It's also just the characters reacting to it is what, because otherwise the characters are not I don't know, is the characters not acknowledging it would have just been boring for me, whereas the characters acknowledging it, it's funny to see their reaction of it for me.
I think the reaction, that's fine, but you again, like they're being meta with the joke of that reaction. Like,
yeah,
this might not be a good comparison, but say if you watched Home Alone 2, and then like Marv gets hit in the face with a brick, and he goes, "Oh, he Home Alone wonned me." It's like, I know it's because that's in the franchise, and it wouldn't make any. It's like that's what it feels like to me. Again, that's because of the humor being subjective thing, but I still think, regardless of the reaction thing, I think that it's still a more intelligently written joke when you have to guess for it. The audience has to think. And I know for audience members who might not want to think, this would be fine, but for me, who's somebody, I'm not going to, this is me putting my pretentious cap on, my lady, my film. My pretentious cap looks like a fedora for some reason. Or a Christmas hat, because it's Christmas. Merry Christmas. I kind of want more intelligently written jokes in my movies.
I agree with that. But here's what I'm going to say. The Night Before, it's not like an intelligent film. It's just I added it to the list because I thought I'd add something a little bit more different, just sort of like, your standard, just, comedy Christmas is all it is. Yeah. And but I found it fun the first time I watched it, and I'd watch it with a group at Christmas, and it's just something else. It's not up to the level of anything else that's on this list.
Yeah, I want to preface something, by the way. Or I guess after the fact, say something. I do not regret like you choosing this. I do not I don't hold anything against you. I think that this was a good choice because
it gives us something to converse about.
Yeah, it gives us something to converse about, and it's a good like contrast between other films. It's why we've tried to choose some pretty varied films here.
Yeah.
Is so we can talk about a great deal about what we think a Christmas film needs to be, and what I think a Christmas, and that's maybe that's how we cap this off.
Mm-hmm.
What we think a truly good Christmas film needs to have. But I think The Night Before, unfortunately, I'm not going to say it doesn't have the heart, because some people are giving it that, but
no,
I think when 1/3 of your film is just so weak, I mean, it's like the negativity bias. Have you ever heard of the negativity bias?
No.
So the negativity bias is the theory that even if the sort of the positive and negative sort of feelings or quantifies. So say like a good experience and a bad experience at a restaurant. Even if like you have the same number of those, you're going to the bad experience is going to resonate more with you. And that basically so even if you have like a lesser element, even if it is only 1/3 of your film, which is still a lot to be fair, to me it's like it brings it up to about half of the film because of just how I feel about it. That's not how I quantify it, but that's
you
how
often
the
remember
works.
You remember the bad stuff, and it lets the rest of it down.
Yeah, it's why we remember Tall Girl so much. It's because it was terrible, but it's exactly. But that's what the problem is that that's mostly what I remember from certain things. Again, it depends because I think that when you have a good sort of fraction, like Krampus, for instance, it has a lot to hate about it, but it's also got a lot more to love about it, in my opinion. Again, it can be very opinionated. Is the problem? It's very subjective. What do you see in this film, this Christmas film that speaks to you? And I think that's a good element about Christmas films. Is they're very relatable in some respects. Even The Night Before, they have a relatability to them that, to different people. They become very warm and opening. I think that's it's a good spirit for the spirit of Christmas in these films, is that they're very warm films in some respects. I still think that, in my opinion, The Night Before, similar to Krampus, if you changed a few elements, you recast like 1/3 of the cast, 1/3 of the main cast, you'd have a really solid sort of boner comedy film, and it wouldn't be like highbrow or high art. But I think I'd probably rank it above what we currently have as Krampus. Like, Krampus's current state, I'd probably rate it above that. I mean, how do you feel about The Night Before, just in general, as a summarization?
The Night Before, like as I said, I think it's probably my second to last. Like, Krampus is the only one I dislike on the list.
Yeah,
really.
I knew that was going to be the case, and I'm guessing you can tell what my least favorite's going to be.
Yeah, but here's the thing: every film that we talked about is just they're all really good films. Is the thing, and I'm like, yeah. So The Night Before falls after all of them, but I still enjoy The Night Before. Yeah. So,
as a contrast to Love Actually, it's very night and day, I would say.
But also, I was going to say it has the love element from Love Actually as well, because there's a couple of sort of love stories in.
Yeah, and I will say, as we said, like one thing in the favor of Night Before is that it works its love narrative in really well, because the main character being like doing a stupid thing and a very inconsiderate thing doesn't gain them, like proposing in this massive party doesn't gain them that relationship back. No. Like it if anything, it spaces them a bit further away. And it's that's an intelligently written part of the film. I would, again, when I say intelligent right now, I mean like the bottom score intelligence, but it's something that at least kept me interested in the film at that point in the film, because as well, like the pacing of the film is bizarre, because the ending's feels like the ending's very like stuffed with things.
Yeah,
it feels like Return of the King, like it's like ending several times.
But yeah, a lot of these films, so there's Spirit of Christmas, a lot of love going around. I think there's only one exception on the list, really, which is Krampus, that isn't really it's the most negative out of all of them. The Spirit of Christmas is kind of not the main focus.
Gremlins
of it.
too, I'd say that it's Gremlins.
Gremlins
as well.
I was going to say Gremlins is close.
I think Gremlins has a few scenes of that, but really the spirit of Christmas in Gremlins is that like these are the horrible monsters that are going to destroy your life.
Yeah. So we paired those two together. Krampus and Gremlins are the two we talked about together anyway.
They work.
Those are the only two that are they're more sort of just monster movies at Christmas.
They're all more out there as well. Really.
Christmassy themed monsters is what they are.
Here's an interesting question I'd have for you. Obviously, in a minute, I want to talk about what my least favorite and favorite were. But here's an interesting question just for what we've chosen. Out of the 4 groups of films that we've chosen, as in like the 4 pairs, 4 couples, almost like like a film, like a love film, like Love Actually. Which of these 4 like sort of categories do you think was your favorite one to sort of talk about, or not talk about, but which one has your favorite sort of which one of these categories was your favorite, basically?
It's a hard one actually, because it's between the Die Hard and the Home Alone one, or the Love Actually and the Night Before one, because Krampus and Gremlins, those two are to put them together, they're probably the weakest pair on here.
Yeah,
I would say, because
yeah. Is there any sort of so you put that as your least, like the one you sort of least enjoy?
If I wanted to watch 2 of these films, it wouldn't be Krampus and Gremlins.
Okay.
And Grinch and Nightmare Before Christmas, I probably wouldn't watch, even though I like Nightmare Before Christmas. It's just Grinch.
I think if you're going to put them next to each other, they don't really.
Yeah.
In terms of like a watch, I mean, this sounds like we're recommending like a double watch, like watching these in a twos, but
no, just they have some themes that connect them together.
Would you either the Die Hard Home Alone one or Love Actually Night Before?
But I don't know which. Probably the Die Hard Home Alone one would be my pick, but then again, they're just those. I just know those 2 pretty well as a pair. They're probably the strongest pair on here, because I don't think anyone would say no to watching those 2 films. So, in comparison to some of the others, where one you'd want to watch and one you probably wouldn't. So,
yeah, I think that is an issue with the pairing. Really, is that it has been very up and down. Besides those 2, I mean, as we said, they're the sort of the iconic bunch anyway. But
yeah,
I mean, if I was going to be honest, I would probably, if I was going to rate like which group of these I enjoyed, or not, I guess enjoyed more, but which one I prefer out of all of them, I think really it's sort of the opposite for me, because I know you were like, okay, we're narrowing it down to none of the horror ones. I think those 2 are like the only ones, not because of the balance. The balancing act is Die Hard Home Alone is much better balancing act, but I think Love Actually Night Before, it was very like Love Actually is on the far good side. Night Before for me was just like it was pulling it back. Like, it's like Love Actually is like a good friend of mine, but the Night Before is like their really sleazy partner that I just don't enjoy spending any time with. Die Hard and Home Alone are good, but they're a good bunch to have, but they're not really as out there. They're very safe.
No, I'd agree.
They're like a sort of, they're like the archetypal nuclear family to me. It's like they're good for some parties, but sometimes I just want to have a good time. Like this is like me talking. It's like if I was going to, I was like, I'm going to invite possibly Krampus and Gremlins, or Grinch and Night Before Christmas, because it would spice things up. I'm probably leaning more towards Night Before Christmas as an individual film, but I gotta be honest.
Because I know Nightmare Before Christmas is up there for you.
Yeah.
Whereas Grinch, I'm not sure.
I think I'm actually going to be. This might sound like I'm being a contrarian, but I'm probably going to go with Krampus and Gremlins.
No, because they're the most interesting ones out of all.
As you
said,
they're the weakest
different.
Pair, though.
They're
the weakest pair, but like it's like their marriage might be on the rocks, but they'll be exciting. There'll be an excitement.
Does that
at the dinner table? But
does that mean you got a negative opinion towards Christmas, Jack? Because they're the 2 of the negative Christmas.
Honestly, I think what I like about them is not that I don't like Christmas. I love Christmas. I think what I like about them is that they are willing to sort of tackle those topics of like negative Christmas things.
That's true. It's just I don't think they do it as well as they could have.
Oh, of course. I think Gremlins, maybe you can make an argument for it tackling it in a capable way, but I mean that's with pretty much all of the films besides Home Alone that I suggested. I mean, and obviously you have Grinch there, and then we have Krampus, which we chose together. I think that whole group of films, I think just in terms of the vibe that they put out, I think that I resonate a lot more with that, just because I like the creativity of it. It's like, I think with me, like when it comes to genre mixing, I very much like the idea of like totally going bizarro with it. I think that Love Actually, as much as I enjoyed it, it's a very safe movie in its genre.
Yeah.
I mean, rom-coms, I've said this before, I in the past, between, you and our friends, I absolutely hate like rom-coms, basically.
No, that's the thing as well. When I'm not sure what Christmas movies I do like, because a lot of them are very samey, sort of Christmassy. But there are ones in there that I enjoy, and I do like the positive Christmas ones. It's just they have to be, somewhat interesting as well. So I can get where the Krampus Gremlins ones are.
Yeah, and then Die Hard, Home Alone. Again, it's like I think that they are. I'm not. Here's the thing. I wouldn't put any of these categories besides perhaps the romantic comedy one far down. I think that there's a very far gap between the Love Actually, Night Before grouping and then like Die Hard, Home Alone. That's third because it's a high third, and then Grinch, Night Before Nightmare Before Christmas is a high second. Like those three groups, I think for me, I personally very much like as a group up.
Yeah, but what are your favorite and your least favorite then? Because
my favorite, I think. It's weird because I'm very much leaning between... Because you'd think, obviously, with my grouping there, I'd probably be leaning towards the horror films, but my favorite's probably something like Die Hard or Home Alone, really. Like again, it's weird to make that... I guess... I think Die Hard is a perfect action... It's like a perfect Christmas film for what I want out of Christmas. Because as well, similar... That's why I put it as like a high third. They're subverting the Christmas thing by it's like, well, it's a Christmas action film. It's not even really a Christmas film. It's just where it's set. It's very exciting. It's the characters are great. The plot structure, even though it's off the cusp, as you say, with how they made it, it's just very. It's very interesting. It keeps my attention.
It was innovative at the time, to an extent, and then obviously...
And that's why I think I value it as well. It's like I love watching films like Predator and stuff like that, and like Aliens. I love watching those 80s action films with a bit of a flair to them. Like with those films, it's more of a science fiction flair and a horror flair. This is more of like an aesthetic of Christmas put around it, but a very solid action film underneath. I would say that I think that the joint second for me is Nightmare Before Christmas and Gremlins. I just have such a love for those films. I do love Home Alone. I do love Love Actually. I do love Grinch. I do like Krampus. I don't really like Night Before, but I mean that's why they. So obviously with that, you'd know that Night Before is, I think, what is the weakest film on this list personally.
I mean, I won't agree with it. The only one I think it even compares to is Krampus, because Krampus, if done better, Krampus would go way above it, as we've said. But...
I think what we can both agree is that those two are the weakest films on this list. But obviously, we'll lean into that a bit differently. But that's fine, because a bit of spice in our criticism, and it's good that obviously we're just bringing different perspectives to each other's talks. But yeah, I think Night Before, it's not as egregious as I might make it make it out to sound. But it is pretty, in my opinion, I just think that it's so vanilla. Like, it's like a plug-and-play sort of, like, plot.
It can be, yeah.
It's like, the characters themselves are okay, but again, you have, like, a really, really negative aspect of that being a really egregious character that is one of your main three characters. A lot of comedy just lends itself to relying on, like, certain slapstick and sort of like drug humor. I think a lot of it doesn't, and those bits are great. Like the bit where Joseph Gordon-Levitt gets beat up by the Santas. I don't like the actors playing the Santas because I don't think they were very funny, but the idea of it is funny. And also a little sad as well. Like that's a good character moment. And then you have the stuff with Anthony Mackie in certain areas is quite good, but then you have the other areas where like his co-stars are just not as good. Like that female character who's like the sort of the Christmas terrorist. Like to begin with, that was funny, but then again, like it's similar to the rhyming thing. It wore thin eventually. As well, the ending of the film is just, I don't think it's very good.
No, I think other than the Joseph Gordon-Levitt bit at the end, the rest of the ending is just...
Well, I think that like them spending time together is fine. I think what I meant by like the ending sucks is that like it's the Santa Claus, like
the
Mr.
Santa,
Green's there, like...
all the like really like as you said, surreal stuff with the elves and the angels and all those bits.
Yeah, like if they were going to do like a narration thing at the beginning and the end, they should have done it in like the style of Ted, where we never see we never see Patrick Stewart. He just narrates bits, like the beginning and the end of the film, and it becomes like this fairy tale like adventure. I would have been fine with that, but like literally having us cut back to not even cut back to, but cut into characters we've never seen in the film, making jokes that are just not funny. It's like, that felt like a studio movie. It felt like something that was shot after the fact to try and I don't know, fit some more jokes into the thing, or it felt like a producer thought, oh, this would be a really funny idea, and they knew absolutely nothing about like what made a comedy funny. And it's just like, oh, it's random. That's funny. It's kind of like a bit like TikTok humor in that implement of that ending, but
well,
as for the ending of our talks though, what do you think? What do you think makes a good Christmas film?
Well,
like your perfect Christmas film. How about that?
This is the thing though, because I'm not good with this, right? Because I like the more adult films out of these. Depending on the film, because Home Alone and The Grinch are good, but they're more sort of family friendly. They're upbeat for the most part. It's just Christmassy with a little flair of all bad stuff. Whereas I do like the idea, like the concept of Krampus is from what I remembered it before, I was like, oh, it could be all right. I like the dark. Gremlins is if it could be done a little bit better, but even then it's a good. The dark side of happy things can be interesting.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah.
But it's never really I don't know. They don't do it as well as they could have. Is the thing. Which is why I end up preferring the ones that are just fun Christmas films.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean.
More streamlined.
Yeah. It depends though. Like as I said, Die Hard is my favorite one out of these.
Yeah.
And that still is a weird one because it's got the upbeat Christmassy bit at the end and a little bit here and there, but the main thing is action. It's quite dark and adult, which is why I
it's almost like it's like a simple movie, but the sort of aesthetic of it and making it like thematically, it sort of streamlines a lot of the stuff. Like it's like streamlining the Christmas elements into it's like the sort of beginning and the end. It's like it's festive, but it's not. That's not the film. It's sort of like it's when it. I guess it's obviously a genre mixing because it's and similar to what you're talking about with the horror ones. It's obviously it's being transformative almost. But
yeah. I mean,
sorry. I was just checking the time there because sorry for the listeners at home. The plumber's on his way, so I've got like 15 more minutes or something.
Yeah,
10 more
but
minutes.
Yeah, basically the only necessary things I'll say of Christmas films is like most Christmas films have that sort of, a lot of these have that love and Christmas vibe. Love isn't necessary in a Christmas film, but I think it's a nice thing to have an element of, which even Krampus has that, is the family sort of, care for each other is in there. It's just, it ends on the ending in general is done a little weirdly, but it could have worked.
Yeah, but I mean, when we're talking about like the love angle, it's more just talking about the core themes, really, isn't it? Rather than the specifics. That's why I guess what I meant from talking about like the elements of these films. I didn't mean like the specific sort of like how it's handled, but the specific sort of thematic elements. How do those fit into like a Christmas film for you? And I think obviously, as you say, Die Hard it's transformative, but it's also, as I said, streamlined. It's not a film that gets hung up on the Christmas stuff, but it has the heart of it really in it.
Yeah.
Like so that was a nice voice crack. Heart. But Bruce Willis running around, ho ho ho, I have a machine gun now. It's like a Santa hat on the dead body. It
makes you want to gun down some terrorists on Christmas,
Oh, yeah, it's like it's I know I've complained in the past in private to you and our friends, but like I don't like that science fiction has become like an aesthetic now. but that's I guess mainly because it's a smarter genre. When it comes to this, when it comes to like Christmas, I honestly don't think there's much really to complain about when it comes to as a genre. Like, it wasn't great to begin with. It just is. So, it being transformative with it kind of works, I think, to just sort of like leave the specifics of the door side and just have like the aesthetic of Christmas. It's like, oh, you have Christmas trees, but like it's barely a Christmas movie. I think that works. In other stories, it doesn't. Like in other stories, like, some of the ones that, like Nightmare Before Christmas and Grinch, all about Christmas. It's all about the spirit of Christmas. And that works for those stories. But again, I think because those stories are trying to tell stories about, someone who's lost finding their way for Christmas. Finding what matters to them, the people that matter to them, and finding their moral sort of center. That's a very good Christmassy message. I guess in what I would choose for like what my ideal Christmas film is. I mean, I love like things like Die Hard and Home Alone. I think that Home Alone is probably what I would choose in terms of like its main appeal. Because here's the thing, I know you said that you don't like the kid-friendly ones, but I think that really, to me, what a Christmas film is a film that is not kiddie in the respect that it's like juvenile, in a way that's not fun to an adult, like not sort of something that's just got like kid humor in it, like something that only appeals to like children. I think that's something that doesn't just appeal to adults, but also children as well. I think that works. I think a lot of these films do that. I think that Die Hard, especially if you're an adult or a teenager watching Die Hard, you can find a lot of comedy in the slapstick stuff, which obviously a kid will also do. But there's also a lot of just as a film, it's sort of like it's a very wholesome film, and I think that perhaps like your most hardened sort of edgy teenager might not enjoy it. But I think in terms of broad appeal, Home Alone's broad appeal as a film, I think works for your best Christmas film. Really, for the best Christmas film, I think I would want to see. Now, in terms of what I'd want to see in sort of like a plot structure, I think that The Grinch and Night Before Christmas with the finding who you are thing, it's obviously been very, very done. It's like, It's a Wonderful Life is like that. It's like, it's been done before, but you can find that there's a good durability to it as a plot element and a plot structure. I think that it's a good way of structuring your wholesome sort of Christmas movie. And again, you might obviously notice that I've picked more of the sort of the less garden variety films as like my favorite ones really here, or like in terms of categories. Obviously, I went for Krampus and Gremlins. Gremlins and Krampus, they don't really have a broad appeal, though, is the thing. I like them because they're very specific, but if I was going to go for like an archetypal good Christmas film, I gotta go for something like Nightmare Before Christmas, because it has that broad appeal of being like a kid's film, but it also has stuff in it that an adult might like the animation, the songs. I would say that Nightmare Before Christmas is probably more oriented towards like kids and teenagers. I don't think that it's a good film for adults, really. Grinch is probably better for that, really, because you have the jokes like the swinger joke, you have like all these adult jokes, sort of like Cat in the Hat, really. I think it's probably made by the same sort of outfit, really, because it's Dr. Seuss. But Grinch and Cat in the Hat, they kind of work as like a companion piece, really, to each other. But the humor in them can be very dark. So obviously, you can watch Cat in the Hat. I suppose we shouldn't talk about Cat in the Hat because when it comes to you, so there's a bit of a history with that. But which we can go into in another episode. We're obviously running out of time right now, but
it'll come up at some point.
But I mean, those films, like even now as an adult, like I could find a lot to find funny and exciting in those. Whereas I think like Love Actually is very specific. I mean, Love Actually's probably got a fairly broad appeal, but because of the language in it, you can't really show it to children. Even though it has like the relatability of like having children, having a little bit of like love in their life and that. It's like Night Before is totally similar to Gremlins and Krampus. Just it's so like you can't show that to kids. And although it might like fulfill like I think a teenager would love The Night Before, like a mid teenager. I think they'd love that film, but. Die Hard, you could show like later sort of like kids, like maybe teenagers to adults. So if you've got like an older sort of age bracket for your family, Die Hard could work. But again, I think that what you want to look for is something like In Home Alone or Gremlins or not Gremlins or Grinch or Nightmare Before Christmas. You want that sort of relatability, but you also don't want it to get hung up on any specific demographic. And
no, that's true.
I want to say just as my final thing. Sorry. The spice of the film. I think that Krampus and Gremlins have the best spice, Die Hard 2, I'd say, actually, best spice for what you could put in your film. I think plot structure, Grinch and Christmas, Nightmare Before Christmas, perfect. Your relatability of like Home Alone and Grinch and Nightmare Before Christmas, those are good. I think that's what so you want those elements, but you also want like the flair of the excitement and the sort of the cool visuals, the cool sort of creativity of Krampus, Gremlins, and like Die Hard.
No, I think.
I think that. Go on, sorry, go.
No, I was just say I think you're right on the point there with that's kind of the whole point. It is the Christmas is the broad appeal of just bringing everyone together with a film. That's the whole.
Yeah.
If a Christmas if a Christmas film can bring people together in any way, that's probably a successful film for Christmas. So, yeah, it is the appealing to different audiences, and it is very helpful in that.
It's almost it's like trying to pander successfully. Really, it's like it's pandering to different demographics, but you're trying to do it with. Again, like Love Actually does a pretty good job at that with the several different sort of age demographics, really, because you have like Bill Nighy, this old man who's like he's finding love and stuff like that. It's like it's there's I'm not gonna write off Love Actually and Night Before, because I know I really haven't spoken about their like elements in what I would look for in a Christmas film, but I mean comedy is another thing that is always welcome in a Christmas film. If you're really being like if I'm going to be as fair as I can, sort of take the best elements out of all these films and put them into something, but again, it depends what film you're doing, but as you say, I mean, as well, different films relate to different people. If you have, like, again, a larger age bracket, or like a higher age bracket, The Night Before might be a good suggestion. Probably not for a family film,
No.
I'll be honest. Even if you do have teenagers and adults, because there's a lot of sex, drugs, and a little bit of rock and roll. Not very good rock and roll, but some.
But what was there's something I was going to say and I can't remember now.
Well, unfortunately, I think we're gonna
we're gonna have to call it in a sec.
Plumbers Invoice.
That's
Christmas
films.
I think Christmas films. I think that as you say, I do like when Christmas films are specifically focused, and I do prefer ones as I get older when I watch them by myself. Ones that are less kid oriented, which is why I like Krampus and Gremlins. They are less kid oriented, but if I was going to pick what would be the best kind of Christmas film, I think Christmas to me has always been a time where, when it comes to films, you're always watching films together as a family. Really, when you have people around you, and that can be whether it's your actual family, your blood relatives, or the family you choose with your friends, and the people close to you. I think that's a really wholesome sort of aspect of Christmas that you can have, really, and I think. I don't want to get sappy too much on this because, of course, that's weird. We don't get sappy on this podcast. I think Christmas is a wonderful time where you can have some good Christmas movies, and mostly we've talked about good Christmas movies. But for whatever reason, even if you think it'll be funny, don't do it. Okay, just before I say, just whatever you do, don't watch Hallmark films. Okay, good night, everyone.
Oh.
No, I'm joking. You can use you do your
no. I hope you everyone enjoyed listening to us spread the Christmas film.
This is our longest podcast so far. I don't know how much of this is going to get edited out, but this is
we don't want to think about that quite
long.
yet.
Yeah,
but no, Christmas. Hope you watch some good Christmassy films, and I hope you enjoyed us talking about Christmassy films.
Yeah.
But that's about it.
Get near the fire with some hot cocoa. Enjoy yourselves, and Merry Christmas, everyone.
Until next time.
Bye.